Hi, this is Gary with MacMost Now. On today's episode, let's learn about using transitions in Final Cut Pro. So in Final Cut Pro, I've got some sample video here in the event, and I'm going to drag it to a new project. So I'm going to select this first video here, drag it in, and a second video here, and drag that right afterwards. So now these videos go one right into the other immediately, and I want to add a transition between them. Doing so is relatively easy. I just click on transitions over here on the right, and then I choose a transition, I cross dissolve, and I drag it to the space between the two of them. And now I've got a dissolve between one and the other. Now notice that little orange space here at the top. That means it's not finished rendering the transition between these. So my preview might not be as smooth as usually. As you can see, it increasing the percentage there, and it will eventually get to 100%, and that means it's ready to preview. You can see there's no more orange space up there. So now if I pan through it with the cursor, I can see the smooth transition. If I want to use another transition, I can simply replace it by grabbing that transition and dragging and dropping it over the current one, and it will replace it and render that one out as well. And this transition has a little bit more flair to it. I can move slowly, scrubbing over it to see the transition happen. So that's the basics, but now let's get a little more precision built into it. I'm going to expand the view in there so I can see a little closer this transition, and I can see the two clips going into the transition like so. To get to the precision editor, the easiest way to edit this, I just go up to the icon here, double click, and now I can see both videos and the transition in between, and I can slide these videos left and right so that I can get the transition happening over exactly the piece of each video that I want it to. Now there's a ton more to it to that. I can, for instance, click here and drag the entire transition back and forth without moving the two videos relative to each other. I can drag the ends here and make the transition larger or smaller. When I'm done with this, I can either double click in there or simply hit return, and it puts the video back, so I can actually do a lot of the stuff in here. For instance, I can grab the end and shrink or enlarge that. I can also grab the transition and slide it back and forth. It will only allow me to do it as long as there's video for both available. So if I go too far to the left, it will stop. That means that this video is extended all the way to this edge right here. And the same thing if I try to go to the right, it'll stop there. By the way, the precision editor even works if you don't have a transition. So I can select this transition and hit delete there to remove it. Now I've got these two videos. I can grab an edge and drag from either side there, but I could also basically position myself over it, double click, and it will actually give me that precision editor here. And you can see I've got no transition, but I could slide the no transition like that or each video, so I can actually pick exactly where the clips go into each other, even though there's no transition there. Oh, and by the way, to get really precise controls, you can use the period and comma keys with something selected. So say I'm going to select that transition there by clicking on it, or the non-transition as it is, and use the period to go to the right, comma to go to the left. Shift period and shift comma will jump by 10 frames apiece. Now it's important to realize that there are two different settings for how transitions work. So if we go to Final Cut Pro Preferences, we see here under Editing, Transition, and we've got the default length, which can be very useful. If you're always using half a second transition or 2-second transitions, you can change the default length here just to make things easier on you. We also have full overlap or available media. Now full overlap is what we saw before. It's where it takes a piece of the video before and after and brings it in so that you have just enough for the transition. Available media means it will not actually move the videos on either side. So notice how I've got these both here. If I bring in a transition and I drop it in, notice how on the right and on the left the video didn't move. It actually used the available media that was already overlapping between these two videos to place a transition. So it's useful when you have precise timing already set and you just want to add a transition. You can use that to not disturb it. Now let's go and expand these videos all the way to the ends so that there's actually no space between these. You can see if I look at the precision editor, there's no overlap at all. Now if I were to drag this over, now you see I can't add it to it, because I don't have any space for the transition to take place in. There's no overlap, and it tells me that there, and it allows me to actually choose the other one, in this case creating a full overlap, and you can see it moved this video from the right over to the left just so it creates enough of an overlap in each video to put that transition. Another interesting shortcut is if you want to add transitions very quickly, you can select a piece of video like this original first video here. Let me shrink so we can see the entire thing, and simply double click on a transition, and you can see it's going to add transitions to either end of that one. I can do the same thing over here, double click, and it adds that transition at the end. So if I'll just undo this, if I select both videos and I just want to add dissolve transitions everywhere, I just double click and you can see it puts them everywhere I want. If I don't want them at the beginning or the end, I can simply select and delete from there, quickly adding transitions to everything in between in my video. So there's even more to it than that. You may have noticed if I select a transition over here at the upper right, there are options for the transition. So even for something as simple as cross dissolve, I can change a look, for instance, for the cross dissolve. I can also change the crossfade for the audio. If you select something else like black hole, for instance, go in and you can see there's all sorts of different options for that. The same for anything. Select, for instance, circle, and here I could actually change the aspect for the circle, all sorts of different things. There's even things I can do here on the video itself to change for many of these different transitions. Some are more complex with their options than others, and have all sorts of cool things that you can do. So you have a lot of transitions in Final Cut Pro, plus if you modify them, it makes even more. I would suggest if you plan on using transitions in Final Cut Pro to actually look through each one, do some example movies, and play around with all the settings. Get to know them so you know what's available. So the next time you're doing a project, you know exactly where to go to find the effect that you want. Hope you found this useful. Till next time, this is Gary with MacMost Now. Want more video tutorials? Just go to MacMost.com, click on the videos link at the top of the page, and then you can view all of the hundreds of MacMost videos by category.